The first day of the World Junior Championships is now complete. Today we're going to take a look at the first 4 games on the first day and recap all the action, and that's coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, today we're recapping the first full day of results from the 2024 World Junior Championships taking place over in Gothenburg, Sweden. Of course, we did a preview on this tournament a couple of days ago, posted on Christmas Day, and then here we are with our first recap here already. Hard to believe the first day of games is already over with. Of course, where I live on the East Coast of North America, the games start pretty early and are pretty much over right around supper time. So obviously, it makes for an early day for us over here, but lots of hockey throughout the entire day, which is always certainly lots of fun, especially where there's no NHL yesterday and today. And NHL action, of course, will resume tomorrow. We'll get back to some NHL videos here on the channel here very quickly as well. The first game of the day saw Team Slovakia doing battle with Team Czechia. Obviously, I expected this to be a pretty close game. I thought with the finish that the team from Czechia had last year, I honestly thought they would stand a good chance to make it back, into the Final Four again. The Slovaks, obviously, I knew would be a pretty good team too, but I didn't think they would be as good as they were, to be completely honest. The Slovaks pulled off a 6-4 victory. Czechia scored the first goal, and then I believe there was 5 unanswered, followed by 1 goal each after that to finish with a 6-2 final. The Slovakian team, Servac Petrovsky, had 2 goals and 1 assist. The Minnesota Wild prospect had himself a spectacular game. Habs prospect Philip Mesar also had a pretty good showing, recording 2 assists. And Flames prospect Samuel Honzek had 1 goal and 1 assist. Slovak goaltender Adam Gahan was phenomenal, putting up 27 saves on 29 shots. He very well might turn out to be one of the stars of this tournament. If the Slovak team has any chance of medaling or making it to the semifinals, then they're going to need him to be huge in big games, and he certainly looked like he has that type of potential. So obviously both teams will kind of reset and move on here. I'm sure the Slovaks are thrilled and ready to move on with after a big victory, but I think the team from Czechia is probably a little disappointed with this outcome. So we'll see how both these teams bounce back into their next game. The second game of the day saw Team Canada doing battle with the Finns. Canada pulled off a 5-2 victory. It was a fairly close game, though, to be completely honest. It wasn't as one-sided as a score might sound. A couple of those goals were empty net goals as well. Obviously, lots of good performances overall. Canada was definitely the better team. Matisse Rousseau in goal for Canada had a solid game. I know there was a point in the game where he was even having trouble with his skate, and he could not push off with the blade. It wasn't kind of, going into the ice well. I'm not sure. Anyways, he ended up getting it fixed. He managed to play part of the period with some sort of skate issue, but thankfully it didn't turn out to be a problem. Finland was not able to take advantage. Finnish goalie Niklas Kakko also had a really good game, even though Canada scored 5 goals. He technically only allowed 3 and also had a pretty solid performance overall. Nate Danielson led the way for Team Canada, a goal, 1 assist. The Red Wings prospect had a real solid game. Owen Allred, of course, who's an undrafted 19-year-old, had himself a heck of a game as well, scoring a big goal for Team Canada. Maverick Lamoureux, the defenseman, the really big defenseman from the Coyotes organization, he had himself a goal. That was one of the empty netters. He also had an assist in the game as well. Matt Poitras, who came over from the Boston Bruins after some good NHL experience, had himself a solid game, scored a goal, and projected first overall draft pick in the 2024 NHL draft, Macklin Celebrini, also scored, and his goal turned out to be the game-winning goal. Celebrini had a heck of a game as well. That goal was not something that we were sure about right away. It looked like it was in, but the referees didn't see it go in, so it was called no goal on the ice. The Finnish defender, essentially the puck ended up going in, and it was underneath the goalie pad all the way across the ice by at least a couple of inches, and the Finnish defenseman kind of pulled it back out before the refs could see. So on the ice, the call was no goal. They did review it, and it was turned out to be a goal. So it was a little bit of a delayed celebration, but Celebrini did get to celebrate after getting that big goal for Team Canada. So overall, I think Team Canada had a pretty solid game. The Finns, I think they're a little shaky on defense. The Canadian forwards were kind of having their way, driving the net and getting set up on the offensive zone. So if there's a weakness there for Finland, as I mentioned before, they're a younger team this year. They don't have as much experience, and defending-wise seem to be a bit of an issue. So we'll see. Canada looked good. As I mentioned before, I think Canada will, as usual, have a chance to maybe win the tournament or at least medal in some capacity. The Canadian team certainly looked good. I think they can still be better yet. I'm not sure if it was completely their full best effort, but obviously getting into the mix here, especially with guys like Donovan and Nelson arriving late after being late additions to the team after a couple of injuries, put out a few of their other players. Certainly didn't help. Those two looked a little shaky early on, but they settled in as the game went along. I do think Canada, like I said, will have a shot here at medaling, but obviously the game against Sweden will be very interesting. They will meet in the round robin. Of course, be curious to see how they match up with this year's U.S. team, which at the earliest, since they're in different groups, would maybe meet in a crossover playoff matchup, either in a quarter, semifinals, or final, depending on how things go. So the Canadian team very much in the mix, but they do have some stiff competition, as I said before. Now, the U.S.-Norway game was very interesting. In my opinion, the first period, the Norwegian team was by far the better team. U.S. did not have a good first period in that game against Norway. Of course, Norway in the big division here in this tournament for the first time in a long time. So they're new to this group. Barely squeaked in. Of course, they have the relegation rules for a reason. And really, just because you won the other group and had a chance to move up, you should have a tough time. And with the U.S. being one of the favored teams to win, to come in like that on the first period, they've got to feel good about how they played. Like they were kind of, outplaying them, being more physical. The U.S. just had a tough first period. I was very impressed with the Norwegians early on. Over time, the U.S. did slowly kind of take over. They had a much better second period. Blue Jackets prospect Gavin Brindley had 2 goals. He had probably the best player for the United States. Isaac Howard and Jimmy Sneggerud also scored. The U.S. did go on to win 4-1. The Norwegians scored, I believe it was the second period, if I remember correctly. Peter Vesterheim scored the goal for the Norwegian team. It was a really nice goal on a bit of a break there. Trey Augustino in goal for the U.S. was also really good. The Norwegian goalie was also good. Like both goalies were good. But it was a case of the U.S. team taking a while to get going, taking a while to make adjustments to the Norwegian team, who put up a really good fight in their first game in this tournament against a powerhouse American team. And of course, the last game of the day featured Sweden against Latvia, and it started off with some pretty heated action, a little bit of controversial play in a way, but it was the right call, in my opinion, by the referees. But obviously, Swedish defenseman Elias Solomonson was given a major penalty and kicked out of the game for a bad hit, cross-check from behind, 25 seconds in. Certainly not the start that Sweden want, being the host team as well. Obviously comes with lots of pressure. Certainly a highly favored team in this game. But unfortunately, in that 5-minute power play, Latvia just could not convert. And really, I think it was all downhill from there. The fact that they had an opportunity to start the game pretty much on a 5-minute power play and not get any goals, you knew that was their best chance to do some damage. And when it didn't happen, it was going to be mostly all Sweden the rest of the way. Philip Bystad and Jonathan Lekerimäki, a couple of really good-looking prospects, had 2 goals apiece. I know Canucks fans are excited for Lekerimäki. He's having a good season over there. Anton Wahlberg also scored, and Felix Unger-Thorm also had 1 goal and 1 assist for the Swedish team, who completed the shutout with a 6-0 victory. So the Latvians had a major opportunity. Couldn't take advantage, and they could be in a fight for their life here, to fight for staying out of regulation. It'll be interesting to see who wins between Latvia and Germany. Whoever wins that game could be determining who goes to the relegation round. Certainly not good. And this year's relegation round is a 1-game elimination as well, so certainly not one you can afford to lose. After being in this big group, you don't want to go down a level if you can help it. So certainly featured a lot of nice goals, a lot of great goaltending. I know for Canada, Matisse Rousseau had what could be the save of the tournament early in the first period against the Finns today. Fantastic save, obviously on a 2-on-1 rush. and he really settled in from there. Russo's having a heck of a season for the Halifax Mooseheads. Had scored a goalie goal earlier this year in the Quebec Major Junior League, and obviously being an undrafted older player has a lot to prove. I mean, guys like Russo and Allred for Canada trying to not only help their country win another gold medal for hopefully the third consecutive year, but to try to solidify themselves maybe a future in hockey and get themselves noticed enough to get a contract as a free agent. So we'll see. It was a great first day. Looking forward to the action tomorrow. So let me know your highlights from today, what was most exciting and what you're looking forward to most here as this tournament carries on into day 2 tomorrow. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll be updating this tournament the rest of the way through. We'll be back with some NHL related videos in the next little while as well, as the NHL resumes their schedule tomorrow, December 27th. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.